It is really, really nice to have you all here. My name is Julian. I'm head of communication, together with Krisztina Kós, director of CEEOL Press, Mihaela Gligor, and Kinga Júlia Király. We prepared a lightning event. We wanted to share with you the possibilities that we offer at CEEOL Press to publish with us. We call it lightning event because we try to stay in 35 minutes and compress all the information in short. If there is some misinformation, we record this event and we will leave it on social media for a few days. And also after a short edit, we will add it on YouTube. So you will have all the information there. With all this said, I will give the floor to Krista, and she will go forward with her presentation and with the invitations. So thank you for joining us, and welcome to our lightning event.
Thank you, Julian. Thank you. I'm just trying to make sure that I admit everybody to the meeting before I start my presentation. I think I have done that. And I'm going to share my screen with you. Okay. So thank you so much for joining us for this event. And I will try to keep it short. I really have to make sure that it's going to fit into our time frame, because when I rehearsed it, it was much longer. So I might leave some information out. I skip something, then you can either contact me later on if you're interested, or get in touch with my colleagues, and we'll make sure that no information is going to be left out. So, okay, so International Academic Book Publishing, from Research to Book, this is the title of my presentation. And I'm very pleased to be here today with two of our authors, Kinga Júlia Király and Mihaela Gligor. They both published their books last year with CEEOL Press. And just very shortly about myself, I come from an academic publishing background. I was working for Central European University Press for some 17 years, first as an editor and later on as the director of the press. And last year I joined CEEOL, and we started CEEOL Press together with these great colleagues of mine in Frankfurt and in other countries. We work together as a great team, even though only online nowadays. So let's cut to the chase. When we are talking about writing or editing your book, what is important really in the beginning is to decide about the target audience that you would like to have for that publication, whether you're or not you're writing for a local or an international audience. You would have library research institutions in mind as the main audience for your book that would keep your copies. For classroom adoption, that's a different option, or if you're writing for a broader public. Most of the university presses, academic presses, scholarly publishers, they do both. So they have these strictly academic titles as well as books for designed for a broader audience. When you choose when you start writing your book, or when you're working on your research, you should have in mind what kind of book it's going to be, whether it's going to be a monograph, a proceeding, an edited volume, if it would be strictly an ebook that you would like to publish it in, or would like to have print books as well. Also, very important to do some, to some degree, a market analysis to see what other books are out there in the market in your own field, that books that you are competing with, because these are all going to be asked by the publisher that you approach later on. And by choosing the publisher, I think the easiest way when you decided that you want to publish something, to look at your bookshelf, to see the books that you are actually reading for your research, for your interest, and see what kind of publishers brought out those titles, and what kind of profile they have that your book might fit into. Okay, so when you decided about the publishers that you would like to approach, The question comes up when and how and what stage of your process to approach them. I would recommend to get in touch with publishers early on in your process and get their feedback to see if your book idea is something that would be interesting for publishing houses and what kind of revisions they suggest and etc. Then you write your book proposal, which features which contains the unique features of your book. It varies by publishing houses, but many of the publishing houses would require complete manuscripts for submission. For monographs, sometimes they are happy with an outline of the book and some sample chapters, and they would even start the peer review process with those. But bear in mind that when you finalize the book, there might be or probably going to be another round of peer review for those projects. So the peer review process comes then, which can be a time-consuming step in your publishing process, although the publisher tries to keep it as short as possible. But it's not always easy to find expert evaluators, external expert evaluators for the book projects. Oh, sorry, I have to let people in. Sorry. And then you get your peer reviews, respond to criticism, you modify the text if needed, and then you resubmit the final manuscript. And then you start working with an in-house editor. For bigger publishing houses, obviously they have these roles separated. They have separate commissioning editors, they have separate production editors, sometimes copy editors and typesetters in the house. But smaller publishing houses, most of the time use freelancers for these purposes. And then the whole production cycle of the book, I will come back to that later, involves various steps from copy editing and proofreading, graphic design, marketing. These are all obviously part of the. Okay. So you approach a publisher. If the publisher is interested in your proposal, they will probably send you some kind of manuscript proposal form, in which you will have to list the unique features of your manuscript, the physical attributes, if it's going to have illustrations in it or not, or figures or tables. What is the audience that you envision for the book? What kind of books, what other books your manuscript is competing with? They will ask you to list a few references, a few possible peer reviewers for and obviously your CV as well. Then you deliver the text, which goes to the peer reviewers. And as I said, that might be a time-consuming process. And even though this is one of the steps that is organized by the publisher, that's the least in their hands as you approach these experts and ask them to write. And if they accept the invitation, they might still take longer. Most of the time, these peer reviewers do it for free or for a very small amount of money. So it's very normally it's about 1 or 2 months of time for the peer review, but it can be as long as half a year or even longer in certain cases. Then you get your peer reviews, the evaluation, and then you react to criticism, which is also can be crucial. Sometimes very harsh criticism is in these peer reviews, and then you react to that and modify and finalize the text according to those. So in this whole process, there are very many people involved. You as the author, then you have the peer reviewers, the publisher, all the freelancers who are associated with your book, and then later the distributors, and obviously at the end of the line there are the readers whose feedback also can be very, very, very important. So just put it into as visually make it I don't know, accessible. So we start right here at the end on the top, submitting the text to the gauntlet. Oh, sorry, it should write contract, not contact. I left an R out. So you submit the text according to the publisher's guidelines. I cannot stress enough how important it is to read your publisher's manuscript preparation guidelines very closely. It's gonna make the publisher's life easier, but it's gonna make your life much, much easier and speed up the process, as later on when copy editing and proofreading comes, there aren't gonna be that many changes or modifications or revisions needed in the text if you follow those guidelines, which for all the publishers, they list very in a very detailed way all the formatting for referencing, for titles, for how to include tables and graphs, etc. in your manuscript. Then you negotiate and sign a contract with your publisher. Most of the time, very early on, they would ask you to start preparing a marketing questionnaire. So you're not just thinking about how to finalize and publish your text, but also how to help or work together with the publisher about marketing and promoting your title later on. Then comes copy editing and finalizing the text for typesetting. Most of the time, these typesetters are freelancers. For CEOL Press, we have our own fantastic typesetter and designer in-house who works on the books that we publish. And I think he's here with us today, Alex. And then once the book is typeset and you have the galleys, then both the author still has a chance for a final proofreading, and we also have freelance proofreaders who check the text for final errors. If there's an index, this is when this indexing phase comes in, when you have the final pagination for the book. You finalize with the publishing house the cover and the blurbs, etc. It's important I think to stress that these parts of the book, like cover and the marketing copy, catalog copy that the publishers prepare, even the fonts, and to a certain degree the title of the book, these are basically the decisions of the publisher, but all the publishers would get the author's consent. They wouldn't do something that the author is not comfortable with for these elements. And then if you have a print final product, then obviously printing comes in. And for ebooks, the ebook is prepared and entered into certain databases. For us, when we both have ebooks and print books, and our ebooks are immediately entered into the CEOL database, and the print books are uploaded to a different portal, and we use, as most of the publishers nowadays try to use print on demand and limit or minimize their stock. So we use Ingram for our purposes, and that company prints our books and distributes to our books to all the various channels that I'll be talking about later. And then comes distribution and promoting of your title. Okay, so just quickly go over again what I've been, what in this visual presentation I tried to show you. So you prepare the book in accordance with the guidelines that you receive from the publisher, from us. I think our guidelines are very straightforward and very easy to follow and finalize the book according to that. You negotiate and sign the contract with your publisher. You start working with them on the cover, the catalog copy for your book, for the promotion of your book. Then comes copy and language editing. For us, language editing is a very important part, as most of our authors are not native speakers of English and need to be published in English or German or other languages. Then obviously we need a native copy editor, language editor, who would help with those manuscripts. Then the author approves or reacts to the copy editor's changes. Comes typesetting and reading the proofs, indexing, which most of the time are done by the author, or at least the author is asked to prepare a list of keywords for the indexing. For big publishing houses who has the budget, they use freelance indexers, which is a completely different or separate profession, basically. Finalizing the cover and then printing or ebook, preparing the ebook is at the end of this process. As for the marketing and distribution of the books, what channels you use, what kind of marketing efforts you put into definitely depends on the genre of the book, of the audience that you want to reach. What these all determine what kind of end product you would come out if you have a print book, if you want to have a I'll show you, like a this kind of book, which is Kinga's book, kind of like a coffee table, illustrated, titled, with lots and lots of illustrations. Can you see it? Not really. Okay, sorry. Yeah. So for that, we decided to go with a special format, size, and have this sort of called coffee table book design. For the book that Mihaela edited for us, which is a scholarly collection of articles, we used a completely different format, as you can see. It's more directed towards the academic audience. That's what we had in mind for this title. There are various distribution channels, traditional and digital, depending on what kind of audience you would like to reach. Most of the publishers prepare sales kits, which has information about the books, and the sales representatives using their pitches to various buyers. In the marketing and distribution, and in the marketing efforts, we always use review copies that are sent out to review journals and other media outlets that might cover the books. We very heavily used direct mailing to possible customers. Social media is heavily used also in our marketing activities. We organize book launches. In ideal times, we organize book launches in real life, but nowadays online. But I think those were also very successful, those online book launches that we did last year. The publisher prepares flyers, advertising, and if there's a chance to attend conferences, workshops, all kinds of talks, events, where the publisher goes to or the author goes to, they can promote the books there. Let's just quickly say a few words about the kind of books that Mihaela did for us. When you have an edited collection of articles by several contributors, then obviously there's an editor who holds everything in their hands. This editor is the one who's in contact with the authors, make sure that deadlines are met or the copyright issues are addressed. They are the first contact to the publisher as well. In certain cases, copy editors might want to contact individual authors for certain issues that come up in their articles, but most of the time it's the editor of the volume who sort of acts as a mediator between these two parties. Make sure that copyright is clear, has written consent from the authors, has all the copyright for illustrations, etc. And there's also very often comes up for edited collections that the authors would like to have one or two articles in the book published simultaneously, or a modified version published simultaneously in a journal. So this is something that the editor also makes sure that has the publisher's consent for that, and then the language that you have to put in when those appear in journals. For copyright issues, those are very clearly stated in the contracts of the publishers. Same for us. But the copyright of text and illustrations, make sure that everything is clear and you acknowledge all the people, all the institutions that are needed to be acknowledged. Now, up until now, I was talking about the traditional publishing structure, which has an author who comes to the publishing house. The publishing house has the author under contract and covers all the costs, and then sells the books for a price. Obviously, we have another model nowadays that we have to deal with, which is publishing open access. And therefore this is a constantly changing environment that we are in at the moment. And the way that these books, the costs associated with these books are covered are several. There can be book processing charges for the title, institutional subsidy, library membership, or freemium models. These are the 4 big areas. As you can see in this graph that I found in the copying revenue models for open access monographs online. Sorry, I have to let someone in. So basically, the money can come from 4 big sources. It can come from a third-party subsidies, from grants, etc. It can be an embedded institutional support from the author's institution. We have the consortium model, like the library model that I mentioned before, where basically the libraries would pre-finance those books that would later they would be later interested adding to their collection. And then you have the earned revenue models, or the freemium model that I mentioned is among them, where you have various formats. Part of them are sold or made available free online, and other formats are still sold for money. And this is how they are trying to cover these the revenue that is associated with it. Okay. So basically, for the question of who pays, it can be either the author. In some cases, authors are independent, or they don't have the institutional background that would be able to cover these expenses. So the authors, and then the universities, research centers, the authors are associated with, all kinds of national funding institutions, European Research Council, and as I said, in certain models, the libraries, the ones who would cover these costs. I think this is my last slide. Yes, that was much faster than I expected. So thank you so much for listening to my presentation, and I'm gonna stop sharing. And as I said, all the academic publishers have various formats, various genres of books that they publish in. And as an example, we have 2 of our authors here today, Mihaela Gligor and Kinga Király, who publish very different books with us. And I would like to ask them just to say a few words about their experiences about publishing with CEEOL Press. So maybe Mihaela.
Just 1 second, please. Krista, is it possible to share this PowerPoint presentation with our viewers?
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So for those who follow us on social media or on Zoom, I will share with you an email address. So if you would like to have that PowerPoint presentation, please send me an email, and I will share the presentation with you. Okay. Great. Sorry for
that's okay. That's okay.
Yeah.
So Mihaela, could you say a few words about your experiences? You're quite an experienced author. You have published several books and journal articles. So I was curious about your experience.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me here today. Well, I basically will tell everything you said from my perspective. I was in Poland a few years ago, 2 years ago, when the idea of this book came to me. And I was thinking, let's make a volume on memory studies. So I got in touch with some friends working on the same area, Holocaust, memory studies. And we decided to have this volume. I also had in mind a publishing house, but then in November 2019, I was in Timișoara for a conference organized by Enformation, and while talking to Julian, I found out about this new publishing house, and I was thinking, okay, this one is perfect for what we have in mind, because it will be available, our book, everywhere. And I started to talk to the contributors, and they sent me the proposal and abstracts, titles, short CVs, and everything. And last year in January, I think, I sent everything to Krista, and I proposed her as a director of this publishing house to look on the papers. And a few weeks later, the answer came, and CEEOL Press would publish the volume. It was a very good news for us. And after that, the whole publication process went very smoothly. We fixed a deadline. We tried to stick to the deadline. We had reviewers. We had to make some changes, and it was very good that the reviewers read very carefully what we wrote, and we could see what was wrong in our interpretation or something like that. We made some changes, and in the end, this beautiful volume came out. And it was a very good cooperation with Krista and with all the others. And I'm very grateful to you and all the people involved. So basically, all you need are 4 steps. First, you have to come with a very good idea and to know how to sell it. Then you have to find a very good publisher and to set and respect a deadline. Then you have to trust your publisher and to respect the ideas he gives you. But then when the book is published, you have to be involved in promoting the book, and you have to go to as many conferences as possible and to many events like TV shows and radio interviews and stuff like that. You have to promote your work, because if you don't, who else will do it for you? So this is the book, and I'm very happy and proud, and thank you so much, Krista, and all the people from CEEOL. Thank you.
And yes, I have to say that both of the authors who are here today were like ideal authors for a publisher, because not just that working with them was so easy, but they understood what Mihaela just said, that it's very important to work in cooperation with your authors for promoting and marketing your book. So the process doesn't stop when you finish writing down the last word, and you need to take part in that process to make sure that your book reaches the audience that you want to reach. So Kinga, your book is a very different story. Just very quickly say a few words about it. I fell in love with Kinga's book when it was published in Hungarian a couple of years ago in 2018, I believe. And I knew immediately that this book should be translated into English. So in that case, it was a different process, because translation was also involved in the process. And but I think we did it very quickly, and considering the beautiful end product, I think it's almost like, I mean, it's unbelievable that we were able to pull it together so quickly, because again, we started the whole process in February maybe, and now we have the book out for 2 months now. So please, Kinga, say a few words.
Okay, thank you for having me among you. First of all, I have to say that I had couple of experiences with non-academic publishing houses before, so this was totally new for me, and I was shocked how smoothly goes everything with you, with the CEEOL Press. I felt like a very special particle set in the big whole, the structure which is working, but I didn't feel myself as a complement, as a component in a material sense of the word. So we were cooperating all the time, and it was very, very I don't know, it was very pleasant to feel how in such a short period, just for the first meet, starting with our first meeting, and then to the preparation of the manuscript in English. And here I have to seize the opportunity to mention the name of Rachel Hideg, because CEEOL Press found a wonderful translator who, with an exceptional sensitivity, just brought out these 10 parallel voices of the Transylvanian Holocaust survivors, which is a very big achievement from a translator, translating oral history in its little sounds and all of its little details. And Rachel Hideg did a really great job with it. So just getting through until the all the publishing process, like proofreading, the final reading, the book design, for instance, I was in every little detail involved. So I didn't find myself excluded from taking decisions, emerging new ideas, emerging new details, and yes. When just Krista told me that the book is ready, it was like 1 week from February. So it was everything working smoothly, neatly, and accessibly, which meant a lot to me as an author, because generally in my former belletristic works and cooperations with other publishing houses, you just receive the manuscript for proofreading, for the final proofreading, but you don't know what's happening with your text. I mean, yes, if you have a good editor, yes, but generally it's a fabric, it's an industry. And here it was very human, very targeted on the person, on the author, which I'm very grateful.
Thank you, Kinga.
Great. Now we almost reached our limit of 35 minutes for the lightning talk. I share with you the email address if you want to get the PowerPoint presentation that Krista had. If you have questions, I mean, the chat is open. If there are some questions for Krista, for Mihaela, for Kinga, you can use it in the chat, or
also sharing my email addresses with the people, so they can write to me directly if they have any questions, or if they have ideas for publications, etc.
And Krista, what are the main domains that CEEOL Press covers? I mean,
yes, CEEOL Press basically covers the same geographic area that CEEOL covers, Central, Eastern, Southeastern Europe. And we predominantly publish in humanities and social sciences. And the books that we have done so far and are forthcoming are all in English, but we consider ourselves a multi-language publisher. So manuscripts in other languages are also welcome. And we decide case by case if it would be involved. And we also provide cooperation for scholarly publisher, international recognition, international distribution for their titles. So that's also something that we are involved with.
Okay, great. If you don't manage to reach Krista, you have my email address is julian.tanea@ceol.com. If you need more information, please contact us. Thank you very much for your time. I hope the timing was quite good for you. Thank you for all the social media followers. If you need to see again this registration, we will keep it a couple of days on CEEOL Press, on CEEOL Facebook page, and on CEEOL Polska. Thank you very much, and have a really nice day, and hope to see you all live these days. Let's hope for better.